Hello, everybody. This is episode 44 of our podcast, Artificial Intelligence and Cybersurgery, the official podcast of for our journal, Artificial Intelligence Surgery, the first journal dedicated exclusively to artificial intelligence and surgery. I'm here today with one of my collaborators, Dr. Andrea Benedetti Cacciaguerra from the University Hospital in the HPB transplant unit at Ancona Hospital. And I'm also here with my co-host, Dr. Vincent Grasso. So Vincent, I'll let you start asking Andrea some questions since I took away a little bit of your thunder on the introduction.
Yeah. No worries. And thank you for taking time out on Sunday afternoon for you. It'd be great for our audience just to learn a little more about, your background, your surgical training, and what you see happening in Italy, perhaps, and in your university hospital, utilizing innovative technologies like AI, how you see that unraveling, unfolding in your clinical space. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vincent. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your invitation. Actually, I just came back from the Italian chapter of IHPBA Congress, where I met Andrew there. So
what does that stand for? What does that stand for? Just but just you said the name of the conference. Say the whole name, not just the letters.
So ICHEP is the Italian name for the IHBPA section, Italian chapter, and ICHEP means Italian Society of Hepatobiliary Pancreatic Surgery, actually, but in Italian, this is the acronym.
So this is actually helpful for me. So this was the Italian chapter of the IHPBA and not the EAHPBA.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
So many chapters, so many societies.
Yes. Because before 2019, there was not an official society. There was only a chapter. But by 2019, Professor Torzilli and all the other chief of the HPB and Transplant Center decided to fund officially this society.
Got you.
Unfortunately, after that, COVID happened, so the society slowed down a little bit.
Right, yeah.
And thank you very much for your question. And regarding my training is, so I started in 2012 when I was in the medical school. I start really early to attend the transplant unit because no registrar were attending that department yet at that time. So
and this is in Ancona, or where was this?
Yeah, exactly, in Ancona. Sorry, was in Ancona where I started actually, and there I attend two departments, so hepatobiliary and transplant unit and pancreatic unit, because at the beginning we're separated. So at the beginning with Professor Vivarelli for HPB hepatobiliary and transplant, and for pancreatic there was Professor Falconi there in Ancona. So everybody knows him, obviously. But after that, I finished my actual medical training, attending there at the hepatobiliary and transplant unit, because after 2013-14, Professor Falconi went away from Ancona to go to San Raffaele Hospital, and our unit, hepatobiliary and transplant, became hepatopancreatobiliary and transplant unit altogether.
Nice.
After that, I started my surgical training there, and at the third year of the surgical training, I decided to went away for a fellowship during my training, and discussing with my professor where to go, if doing a transplant fellowship or hepatopancreatobiliary fellowship. At the end, I decided to start an hepatopancreatobiliary fellowship, minimal invasive, especially in Southampton, with Professor Abu Hilal from the beginning of 2019. Unfortunately, at the end of unfortunately, or actually I was lucky for that, I don't know. Actually, I don't know how it could have gone, actually.
We'll
At the end of September, Professor Abula said to me, Andrea, I will go away, I will move. So I said, what for me now? Where I have to go? Shall I have to follow you or not?
Yeah.
And actually he said, yeah, you can follow me. I will move to Brescia, to Polyambulanza Hospital. So after that, I moved with him. I
Back to
brought
Italy.
all my luggage with me, and I went with him to Brescia for 1.5 years there in Polyambulanza Hospital. And actually, along this 2.5 year period with Professor Abuilal, I spent time in clinical research and clinical activity, actually.
So just so you
And
understand, Vincent, when I was in Verona during my pancreatic surgery fellowship over 20 years ago, I did it with a guy called Claudio Bassi, and his partner was Massimo Falconi. Massimo Falconi is, a very famous pancreas surgeon who was at Ancona, but then is now at San Raffaele. So this is how we're all interconnected.
Nice.
And I knew Mohammed. Mohammed was a resident at Verona when I was doing my pancreatic surgery fellowship. So that's how we met. So just so you understand everything.
Oh, it's cool.
And
what a cool connection.
yeah, and then now, Andrea, I keep seeing you at all of these conferences, and you keep talking about radiomics, which I wanted to have our viewers get a little insight into your thoughts on radiomics. And also later we'll talk about this interesting group of radiologists in Italy that are focusing on radiomics. So what initially got you interested in radiomics?
So the first time I was interested in radiomics was like 1 year ago, 1.5 years, something, because these two colleagues I have with me in Ancona, two radiologists, are involved with the Italian Society of the Radiology, with radiomic stuff. And actually the way of thinking of radiologists is a little bit different sometimes compared with the surgeon. The surgeon are more practical. They want to use and to run all these technologies. But actually, what I understood about the radiology is that they want to be more precise about analyzing all this data and to be careful about this data. Because when I went like 6 months ago in Rome to do a presentation about technology, radiomics, the use of nomograms and models. So I studied a lot all these papers on radiomics, how to analyze the infiltration, for example, of lymph nodes, this stuff, especially for cholangiocarcinoma. Okay, in China they are using a lot this technology, especially for this tumor, because of
for extrahepatic. You're talking about extrahepatic.
Actually, for the perihilar and distal, these are the two. What I read is the two most common type of tumor where radiomic was used in China, and what I read. So I asked to my radiologist to analyze with them this paper, because I said, as I said to Andrew when I was now in Padua, I asked, I don't know, we found the Holy Grail, because the accuracy of these models were like between 92 to 98%, which is, the R&R curve for these models were unbelievable. I said, it's not possible. Otherwise, okay, so for the normal statistics and the classical statistics, there's any more space. So this is was my question in my mind, and I analyzed this paper with my radiologist, and they said, yeah, radiomics will be the future, but you cannot run if you are not analyzed deep these data. Otherwise, there are many mistakes that comes out from this data, and this could be a huge bias.
So just to clarify, you're saying that these papers with a 92 to 98% accuracy were able to detect what? They were able to tell us what?
For example, this paper, I don't remember very well the title, but this paper was on perihilar cholangio, and the 92% of accuracy was about infiltration. So N1, obviously compared with the histology.
R1, you mean?
N1.
But for lymph nodes.
So, I mean lymph nodes. Yeah.
Okay.
Lymph nodes. With the So and 98% was this discrimination between N1 and N2.
Yeah. Amazing.
And I said, how it's possible? So for many people, what I realize is that they are not understanding very well what is radiomics. This is the base, where to start, actually. Yes. We have, at the beginning, in all our meetings, all the people who are work with radiomics, the people like Andrew, all the people in charge with the artificial intelligence stuff should teach firstly what is radiomics, because people do not understand, actually.
So how do you define
radiomics for what?
How do you define radiomics? It'll be helpful for our viewers. How do you define
radiomics? Is actually what how can I define radiomics? Is actually using the characteristics of grayscale in, for example, CT scan, and transfer all this data of thousands of images in data. So transfer
on the pixel, like
pixel, actually pixel. The scale of gray, and obviously the pixel and the scale of gray define an amount of data that could be analyzed, actually. So radiomics could be associated, obviously, with machine learning at the beginning, because this paper I was citing before was with machine learning, and actually in the future going further with deep learning, because even that we should teach to the people what is machine learning and what is deep learning, because I studied a lot along last year about all this stuff. Is not easy, for sure. The people who want to teach to the common population what is deep learning, actually you could say, I don't know, I don't know if I can say, but this positive, like Google, Alexa, this is deep learning, actually. They learn by themselves without the interaction of the human. In machine learning, you have to give indication to the computer how to work.
Well, but supervised learning as opposed to unsupervised learning.
Exactly.
But Vincent, what are you trying to say?
That's really interesting. I love this because, we're working on a paper. So, for example, simplistically, radiomics, it involves algorithms for data characterization. As Andrea, mentioned, you have to look at data sets. Now, one of the things that we realize now is the higher the resolution, right? The higher the resolution of the file that you're going to analyze. So, for example, an 8-bit, 10-bit, 12-bit file, they're very different. And then the ability of, say, looking at, like in surgery, if you have an HD camera or a 4K camera or an 8K camera, the ability of extracting subtleties, like you mentioned, the grayscale gets wider, right? There's more information that you're able to look at. So as our algorithms get better and the resolution goes higher, I would imagine there's going to be a pretty close time now where you'll be maybe at 99.9% between N0 and N1, right? So that to me would be a really important milestone, because there is N1 or there's not, right? That's an important staging characteristic, right? And as the resolution goes up and the algorithms get better, and you get different data sets coming in outside radiology. This is all the, this is so exciting, all this. So this is music to my ears, I'm sure to yours, Andrew, as well.
Well, what I love about radiomics is we don't care anymore if a tumor is resectable or not. Radiomics enables us to tell us whether you should remove it in the first place, and that is such a wonderful moment in surgery to be living in. Being resectable or not really is irrelevant in this day and age, and it's a completely different way. So the radiologists are always so intelligent, because they come out with a CT scan, and after a while, we start to make jokes like, oh, we don't really need radiologists anymore. And then they come up with the MRI, and they're like, these crafty guys, we need them again because T1 weighted, T2 weighted, all these different types. But now, even more so with radiomics, they keep upping their game, the radiologists, and
I have a question for Andrea. Just that's a tremendous point, Andrea. Do you find it difficult to be able to go into your university setting and request files for your research group to analyze? For example, is it hard for you to go to the Department of Surgery and say, I'd like to record all the colonoscopy videos, all of the minimally invasive videos, and I want to analyze them? How hard is it for you as a researcher, a clinician, to get access to data from your own facility? I mean, is it very hard, moderately hard? Please give us some insight.
So actually, it's very hard because there are. So in Italy, the type of hospital and the facilities in the hospital are really different among all the regions. This is a huge, tremendous, really problem for all the clinicians there. For example, because the private hospital and the hospital that are not in connection with the university sometimes have more and more opportunities than the university hospital. And probably Andrew knows this in Italy, because, for example, in our hospital, we are implementing right now the clinical folder. And regarding, for example, the access to the colonoscopy, we are not able because it's a different program. So this is quite strange, but this is unfortunately when the hospital, because our hospital is really, really big, and compared to the other of the center of Italy is like 1,200 beds. So it's really big hospital. The management probably is not so easy. And this is probably because in Italy, we have different kind of healthcare. We have actually 21 type of healthcare, because every region is managing his own healthcare.
Okay.
Yeah, this took me a while to understand. I'm learning it now because I have, I just got my French license, and now I have to apply for a medical license in not the different regions, but the different departments. And every department in France has different criteria. And, finally, someone they just told me, yeah, it's like in America, like you get a medical license from New York is not the same as getting a medical license from Delaware. It's as chaotic, unfortunately. Like, Vincent and I would have naturally thought that a medical license in Italy made your life easy and you could just work anywhere, but not at all. You have to apply for a license in each separate, in Italy, is it by departments or it's region? Is it by region?
The region.
Yeah. And so in France, we have regions, but within the regions, we have departments. And so each department has its own, organization. It's just bureaucracy on bureaucracy on bureaucracy, just like in America. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but this is my fear, even regarding what we said about artificial intelligence and radiomics. My radiologist said, actually, this could be a real revolution, but if all the companies are not creating agreement of the setting of all these machines, we cannot expand that to all the countries, and
but this is
not
where
all the countries,
this
all
is
the
where
regions.
we come in. This is exactly why we have this podcast. This is exactly why we have the journalists, because we need people like you to organize these. We need to be making these connections and organizing the hospitals and getting the data. We can't just have companies do it for us and get left out. You know, we have to be the driving force. And strangely enough, maybe this bureaucracy helps with that, honestly. You know, maybe that can work to our benefit if we're smart and we can control the exchange of data. You know, so
Yeah.
we only have a few more minutes. So tell us a little bit about this group of radiologists in Italy. Is it like a radiomics group? Are surgeons allowed? Are you part of this group? How does this work?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I'm not in their society, obviously, because I'm a surgeon, but I'm working really linked with them because actually we are close office, so we are always working together. We are so they are a group of radiologists of, as I said, Italian Association of Radiologists that are managing the expansion of radiomics in Italy. So they are actually young radiologists that have not so many connection with surgeon. So this is what is different between our hospital, with the connection is really, really close compared to the others, because and they said that this discussion always between me, my colleagues, surgeons, and them are growing many solutions. Because, for example, just talking about pancreas, so the question I made to them, because actually they don't know the pure indication of the things, but actually they are in the MDT, so they know many stuff. So we said, why at this time, 2024, we have still to count angles to define indication in pancreas? This is, so we are always saying biology, tumor biology, but at the end, we are still counting the angles.
What do you mean the angles? The angles of what?
Yeah, so saying that the vein is below 180, so it's borderline because of this.
Yeah.
So you are cutting. So in most of the hospital are doing like this, not considering even CA19, possible infiltration of lymph nodes. So because this is a huge problem, because pancreas, the indication of is really old. So we said, why computers and all the stuff cannot help us to overcome this issue?
Wow.
Well, you know, it's a huge economic issue, right? Because a lot of people don't want to reduce the indication for pancreatic surgery, right?
Yes.
Pancreatic surgeons like to operate on the pancreas, you know, and it's hard to get a pancreas case. So, you know, we're fighting against this. You know,
actually, as a surgeon, we are lucky that the last trial in Netherlands, they not said that for a resectable you have to go for chemotherapy, which is said so to resect is still better. Otherwise, not any more work for us.
Yeah. No, it's a real problem. But honestly, you know, our generation, your generation, you know, we have to change that, right? We have to, you know, like I like to say, we really have to change it from the art of surgery to the science of surgery. You know, I'm a researcher. You know, in Italy, you're not allowed to call yourself a scientist. I don't know if you know that, Vincent.
Really?
Right? You're not allowed to call yourself unless you're like a PhD in physics, right? So I can call myself a researcher, but in my heart, you know, I'm a scientist, right? I would love to elevate surgery to the level of a science. You know, I know art is beautiful, but it would be nice if it one day could become a science. And I think with artificial intelligence, with radiomics, with pathomics, with surgeomics, we can see that happen, which is why it's so exciting to be a surgeon in 2024.
Yeah, I was impressed about in your presentation at the end, you said all the companies should think that radiomics, all this stuff, why they do not concentrate on this instead of like increasing all the technologies in surgery and I know which is important, but right now with the technology we have right now, we can do everything in surgery. But why we are not pushing on this stuff. And probably you answered to the question. So
yeah. I mean, like my point, I just gave the talk on Thursday in University of Padova, and or in Padova, and my point is, why are we pumping in $3 million for a complete surgical system, right? I don't want to mention the name. We already know, we obviously know who I'm talking about. When we can take $3 million and we can use so many smaller robots, or we can fund AI projects that can tell us who we should be operating on, who would benefit from chemotherapy, who would really benefit from upfront surgery. We have the ability right now, but there's no money left because we're hemorrhaging all these. As soon as the hospital has a little bit extra money in the surgery department, they're forced essentially to buy a robot, and there goes $3 million, and there goes any chance of innovation. It's sad to say the least. And I was even, I bring this up a lot also, but it even made more sense to me, like with time, is, the fact that the Da Vinci was invented, by DARPA, by the US military, to operate remotely, to do open surgery on soldiers. But then the rise of minimally invasive surgery coincided, and they tried to switch gears to make it a minimally invasive robot. But if any surgeon in their right mind was told, 30 years ago, we want to give you a robot. Would you like a robot to be at the bedside with you, helping you operate? Or do you want to operate 6 feet away at a console? No surgeon in their right mind would say, I would love to operate unsterilely several feet away from my patient. It makes no sense, So I'm really excited about the concept of non-console robotics, because, that's the future. And obviously one of my mentors, Brice Gaillet, is really championing that with Moon Surgical and the Maestro robot. So, but I digress. So
once to me, Mo said, Professor Bilal said, so we have to dominate the technology, not make the technology dominate us. So we have to use it.
Yeah.
But sure.
Use the brain, actually. So
yeah, absolutely.
So
no, absolutely. So Vincent, what do you have? Any advice for Andrea? How do you think we can work with him in the future? How do you think we can work with the radiomics group in Italy? You're a research professor at the University of New Mexico. You work with one of the largest radiomic groups, computer vision groups in the world, if in the United States, if not the world. So what advice do you have for him?
Yeah, I think what we'd like to do is follow up, Andrea, certainly. We're working on a paper involving resolution that's higher resolutions for doing better algorithms for extracting information from videos and or radiology data. We could definitely talk to you about and work on that. I think it's time to start putting together some proposals, Andrew, with the folks that we have access to, where we construct a proposal with collaboration between our respective entities, and we approach funding sources to fund this kind of innovative research that doesn't require the bureaucracy perhaps to be in the middle and make it go too slow, right? We have to move fast. And Andrea, we have friends in China that are researchers. They have data scientists in the department. I mean, they got past a lot of the bureaucracy, and they're doing interesting work, which we can all do. But we need to collaborate. And I'm going to be in Ascoli this summer, and maybe I can swing by Ancona. My cousin did his architecture work at the university there, and they live in Ascoli, which is pretty close by. So,
great.
Andrea, we have to go to Rimini and spend a couple of weeks of being bad
You can
people
call
there.
me when you want, actually. It's really a pleasure to ask you, actually, really. So Andrew, probably he knows better Marche than you. So Ascoli in all these places.
Yeah, for sure. I know Emilia Romagna, but he knows better.
Yeah. But and probably, I don't know, probably my two colleagues, the radiologists, probably know some of your radiologists there, because they did, both of them, 1 year of fellowship in Sloan Kettering. So they start their activity and start to think about radiomics years ago. So probably they know someone there in the US, actually.
Can I close it up, Andrew?
Please.
Are we done with our time, or we have some more time to talk? Because this is fun.
Well, we have looks like we have about 4 minutes. So
Oh, we do. So I had a question for you.
Yeah.
You know, this is I have a cousin that was diagnosed with a stage 2 rectal cancer, and he was able to get immunotherapy at the University of Maryland, and
we're
he's
still
had
recording.
chemo.
By the way, we're still recording. Is that all right?
Okay, I'm not going to say name. Yeah, and he was able to avoid having surgical resection of that rectal tumor through immunotherapy. Now, we'll see how it moves along, but it was a pretty interesting, pretty interesting to avoid a surgery, get immunotherapy, get chemo, and it avoided at this stage a possible colostomy and everything else. So I would imagine 5 years out, say 10 years out, finding early stage, lesions, what are surgeons 10 years from now that are, colorectal surgeons, unless you find something more advanced, I guess do we advise our surgical residents to also maybe get a PhD in AI and technologies so that they can do clinical and, technology work like us, like the three of us do? How do we help our surgical residents make some decisions for what's surgery going to be like 10 years out from now with robotics and everything else?
I mentioned that in my talk. There's this concept of endoscopic surgery and percutaneous surgery, right? And a lot of departments, HPB departments in France, they have surgeons that do the surgery, they do the percutaneous work, and they do the endoscopy.
Okay.
Or they have like one guy that does two and another guy that two,
Sure.
and they overlap, but they're all in the same department. But my point being is, if surgeons, your generation, Andrea, and younger, if they ignore endoscopy, if they ignore interventional radiology, they are going to be unemployed. I mean, quite frankly. And so we really need this open-mindedness and this acknowledgement of smaller robots and to truly unlock the potential of robots. But what do you think, Andrea? Do you at your department, are you allowed? Do you have surgeons doing endoscopy, ERCPs, and doing percutaneous work on the liver?
No, so we are actually 2 surgical departments right now. The other one is managing all the general surgery, colorectal, especially, and emergency surgery, and our department, HPB and transplant unit. So we are 2 departments, but none of them are performing ERCP or colonoscopy or gastroscopy. No.
Okay.
Disaster.
This in Italy, actually in Italy, the concept is this is something old and is performed in the peripheric hospital. In our peripheric hospital, there are many surgeons performing colonoscopy, so because there are no gastroenterologists there. So this is what, for me, was strange when I was in Southampton, because interventional radiologists were performing ERCP, which was strange for me, because in Italy, so endoscopists and gastroenterologists are performing that. So I don't know, in every country, there are many different organizations about that.
We only have a minute left, but I'm always reminded by the phrase from the Bible, the meek shall inherit the earth, and I really worry for departments that ignore the future. When I worked with Brice Guy in Paris, he had the digestive diseases department, and he was the chairman, and under him were the gastroenterologists. They were part of his department.
Wow.
And that really, is a thing of beauty. But Vincent, close us out before our recording stops.
So thank you, Dr. Andrea Benedetti Cacciaguerra. I think I got that right. Università Polytechnica delle Marche. He's a hepatobiliary pancreatic surgeon extraordinaire doing AI work and radiomics and all sorts of fun things. He'll be back on our show. So we're closing out the 44th podcast of AI and cybersurgery for our journal, and looking forward to talking to you again.